I am so excited about this topic because this research blew my mind. I could not believe the things that I was reading from very reliable sources. This is a case where science is just at the brink of catching up to something that may have sounded kind of fantastical or unbelievable before. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Reimagining Ourselves podcast, where we spend time dreaming of what we can heal and what we could become. I'm Cassandra. I'm a wellness coach and a therapist with a decade of experience working in the mental health field and a lifetime of lived experience learning how to heal and grow from pain and trauma. In today's podcast episode, I'm so excited to tell you all about this surprising strategy of healing physiological and psychological illnesses. So if you've been following along with this podcast at all, you know that this is something that I've been doing in my spare time with the goal of using the funds to redistribute wealth to people and organizations that I believe will use it as a tool for positive change in this world. I've committed to directing any funds from this podcast to a few causes that are near and dear to my heart. These causes are environmental restoration, indigenous reclamation, and urban gardening. I chose these three because I am desperate for us to reconnect with the earth, and these seemed like some of the best ways. So if you have an idea for this podcast or want to help out with any of the behind the scene things, reach out to my business email that's listed on my channel page. I am interested in hearing your ideas for the podcast, and you can also comment them down below. Anyway, today we are talking about the surprising health benefits of grounding. And when I say grounding, I'm specifically referring to the act of having direct contact with the earth. So things like walking outside barefoot, putting your hands in the soil while you're gardening, laying out on the grass with shorts and a t-shirt on. Anything that puts your organic body in direct contact with the ground, and the ground is not blocked by any man-made materials. I do think there are some exceptions to that in which the benefits can diffuse through some materials, but I don't know what they are, and for the sake of this conversation, direct contact. So before we get into exactly what the research says about grounding, I think it's important for us to hold in our mind that this is one of those cases where the research is likely limited and behind where it could be because there isn't enough money in looking into this. Because if it can't be used to develop something to sell to you, then who is going to fund it? So if you dive into the citations below, you may even notice that a lot of the research, not all of it, but a decent chunk of it, is even associated with products that you can buy. So that really just is an important thing to keep in mind as we dive into the world of research, that funding is an important and sticky part of that world. But if you're like me and you're a sucker for a silver lining, I have one for you. It's that all this research is most likely just the tip of the iceberg for the enormous benefits that grounding has on our human bodies. So there is some real and compelling evidence about the effects of grounding. The ones I'm most familiar with are on our mental health, so I'll start with those. But if you are interested in the impact on our physical health, stick around because I'll get to that. Okay, so this act of connecting with the earth has an enormous impact on our minds and our mental health. In the Journal of Science and Healing, a study out of California found that a group of therapists who spent 4 weeks grounding regularly experienced significant increases in physical function and energy, and significant decreases in fatigue, depressed mood, tiredness, and pain. At a 1-month follow-up, physical function was increased and depressed mood and fatigue were decreased. Other studies have found that grounding reduces stress, improves sleep, and improves energy. Grounding improves your mood. One study found that after an hour of contact with the earth, participants experienced statistically significantly improved moods, as evidenced by increased reports of pleasant and positive moods. Grounding has been documented to have a normalizing effect on cortisol, also widely known as the stress hormone, and overproduced in those of us living with chronic trauma and anxiety. Without intervention, elevated levels of cortisol are associated with mental health challenges, sleep disruptions, hypertension, cardiac disease, decreased immune response, and autoimmune diseases, and abnormal glucose levels. So grounding has an overall calming effect on the brain. It initiates immediate changes in the left hemisphere of the brain, and it seems to strengthen the practice of meditation. Individuals who meditated while grounded were measured to have higher alpha waves in the frontal lobes, so that's associated with emotional regulation, and higher theta waves, which are associated with creativity, intuition, daydreaming, and spirituality. Grounding helps us transition from the activation of our sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight system, to our parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest system. You may have heard of the benefits of being in this state. It's really important not only for our mental health, but our internal organs. So that brings us to the physical effects of grounding. Many of the most debilitating diseases, as well as the aging process itself, are associated with chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. If you've never heard of oxidative stress, it gets a little bit complicated, so stick with me while I explain. There are these unstable molecules in our bodies called oxidative reactive species, or free radicals. You may have heard of them. They are naturally generated in our cells and tissues as byproducts of oxygen metabolism, but they are being found at unprecedented levels in humans, as they also respond to environmental toxins and pollutants. So this huge production of these oxygen reactive species causes oxidative stress, which is an imbalance that leads to cell and tissue damage. And the good news is that the Earth generates a slightly negative charge that has a grounding effect. The Earth has a seemingly limitless store of free electrons that interact with biological matter, us humans included, to play a regulatory role on our systems. It seems that these electrons bind to these free radicals in our bodies and neutralize them, stopping their harmful effects. This creates potent and rapid anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. This natural antioxidant effect that comes from simply walking barefoot on the earth helps to stop inflammation, which is beneath so many modern diseases. Grounding is even associated with the acceleration of healing from physical injury. It supports our body's ability to respond to physical trauma, and it rapidly heals wounds. I'll tell you what this reminds me of. When I was pregnant with my son, I was surprised to learn that breast milk has a number of health benefits for both the mother and the child. Breastfeeding lowers the risk of infectious diseases during childhood, among other benefits. And one of the reasons is because the mother's breast milk shapes the development of the baby's immune system. The breast milk is described to almost educate the baby's immune system on what is a threat versus what does not need to be attacked. And it provides support for any infections that the baby does have. Breast milk reacts in real time to the biochemical makeup of the infant's saliva. And it seems like the Earth is doing the same thing for us every day if we will just go outside and experience it. I'll tell you, anecdotally, I have experienced this for myself. Whenever I'm feeling emotionally dysregulated or just out of sorts, experiencing some kind of intensity that's hard for my system to handle, grounding with my feet on the earth, in combination with the act of staying in the present moment, which I've talked all about in a previous episode, is the easiest and quickest way for me to become regulated again. There was a time some years ago that I was having some forgotten fight with my husband, Garrett, and I was pissed. So I went for a walk in the woods, practically stomping, and I remembered this concept of grounding. And at the time, it kind of felt like this alternative belief that I wasn't sure about, but kind of believed in. So I went off the trail, I took off my socks and shoes, and I put my feet into a stream that was running alongside the trail. And almost instantly, the physical experience of my anger was just gone. I asked what my anger was trying to tell me, and I got an answer that was not distorted by rage. That was actually able to serve as a point of communication and connection with my husband. For me, it really felt like these electrical currents in my body were able to immediately stabilize. And now that I know the research behind grounding, I know that this is true and then some. There are even more hidden benefits than those that I noticed experiencing. Our disconnect from the earth is literally making us sick. It's having significant physical, emotional, and spiritual consequences. If we want to continue to live on this earth and raise our children to be good stewards of this earth, I really think it's crucial that we reconnect with this land. I don't think it is ever too late to repair that relationship. And taking it upon ourselves to do so on a personal level is how a culture shifts. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if you've ever experienced the magic of earthing. Let me know if you have an idea that you'd like to see talked about here. If you're interested in these kind of topics, clearly I am too. So go ahead and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any updates. I welcome you to our corner of the internet, and I'll meet you here next time on Reimagining Ourselves.